Hi guys, it's Beth. Welcome back to my channel, and yes, I have one more Halloween share for you and then I'm done. So if you've watched some of my other videos from some of the other collaborations that I've been in, I have mentioned that I use this Wicked pad from My Mind's Eye. I had started it at the very beginning of the month because I wanted to do something, and for the life of me I can't remember what it was. It was back at the beginning of October, and so I had this pad out. And I decided that since there wasn't that much left in it, that I was going to go ahead and try and use this up in addition to the Peekaboo pad that I finished up. So this is more of a project type pad. So it's intended for like party decorations and party supplies. There's banners, there were some labels or cupcake toppers is what they called them, cupcake wrappers, drink wraps and labels, some goodie bag pouches, straw flags, witch's hat pieces for a decoration, and then some invitations. Then there were a bunch of labels and then some other, like just regular patterned papers. So in the past, I had already used up these Halloween, like the banners, and I will insert a picture, try to insert a picture here where I'd made it in the past, but I ended up putting it in my craft room where my husband built me a mantle. He was so kind to build me a mantle in my craft room just for kind of atmosphere and decoration and stuff. And so I used some of these on that mantle. And then I'd made the pouches in the past. I'd used some of the papers in the past. I let my daughter, we had a small Halloween gathering at the beginning of the month with like two families that we have been close with, even through kind of the whole COVID. We all hung out together, so we felt it was pretty safe to get together with them. And because we always have a party every year, it was just kind of nice, even though it wasn't our normal like big party, it was nice to have a little bit of normalcy on a much smaller scale. But anyway, I let Ellie, she filled out these little invitations and handed them to all the kids. You know, there were 7 kids total, no, 5 kids plus my 2, so 5 kids that were coming, and so she gave them those little invitations. And then the rest of it I tried to find a way to use just in general crafting. I did keep the witches' hats out. I've fussy cut out all the pieces, and the girls can make that as a craft for next year. So I started this in October, and there were 26 full pages when I started cutting everything up, but that included like some of these pages with the labels and the cut aparts that you couldn't cut out. So once I kind of got into it, I'll kind of show you what I ended up making. We'll go ahead and start with these two. I made some more 12 by 12 pages, and these, I found I challenged myself to find a good way to use these cupcake wrappers. So one thing I did was I took 2 of the green wrappers and connected them and made kind of like a big scallop that kind of goes across the middle of my page here, and then just trimmed it off on the edges, and then used 2 different patterns of paper. I think I just cut them down to 6 inches each, and then tried to use some of the labels down here, just kind of made a little grouping. And then this was a Paper Studio sticker pack that I had found on clearance that went really well with kind of like the vintage vibe of the papers. This was one of the little food labels, and so I just used it as a journal spot, and then a little part of one of the drink flag or straw flags. So this one is pretty much the same. I used the green cupcake wrappers, but then I just kind of grouped some different labels on here and then pulled in some different stickers from the Paper Studio sticker sets. One other thing I did with some of the cupcake wrappers was made some rosettes. And so they came out to be really thick rosettes. But I just scored it. I just went through and scored at every, like where the scalloped like valley was, and then just glued it together. This is 2 labels together that I just kind of layered up to try and use them up. And plus I wanted to give this guy some color, and it worked out well that it fit just inside this orange, the outer layer of the orange. And then these were some drink flags that I just folded up, or the straw flags that I just folded up and added on there. So I do have 2 of those that I made. I have no idea what I'm going to use them on, but I don't know, could use them for something, I'm sure, in the future. But they are nice and thick. So definitely not something that I could ever put in a scrapbook or on a card, but that's okay. So let's see what else I made. And I ended up making 2 other rosettes that I have with the witch's hat pieces that I've already put away for Halloween next year. And then I made 35 cards, which I will insert that in just a minute, because most of those cards ended up going to my dad's nursing home. So I went ahead and filmed those so I could get those delivered. And then the last thing I made, or it wasn't the last thing, but the last thing that I have to share are these little goodie bags. And just because I made these at the beginning of October for our one in-person outdoor craft show, because I wasn't sure what Halloween would really look like. And so I figured it might be fun, like for grandparents or, family friends or something, if they wanted to give like a little goodie bag. This was already like prepackaged and made for them. And so what I did is I took, actually, this is one that I have left that I'm going to have to deconstruct anyway to get the candy out. But I did make some bag toppers. And I just took a piece of paper, and I think it's like 4 by 6 inches, and then just folded it in half and rounded the corners. And then here's one of those like food labels or drink labels, and then I just took a scrap that went behind it. And so I think I originally had 12 of these, and so I just did them all the same way, just used a combination of different papers and scraps and labels. And then this is a 6 by 9 inch cellophane bag that I think I got either from Clear Bag or Amazon. I don't remember anymore. But it is, like the self-sealing. So then in the bag, I had, that kind of came undone. I decided to make a little pocket. So I took a piece of patterned paper and cut it, it's like just shy of 6 by 9, and then added another smaller piece as a pocket, and it is 4 3/4 by, so 5 1/2. So this must have been 5 1/2 by 8, 5 1/2 by 7 1/2. And then this one ended up being 4 3/4, and I just glued down the edges to create a pocket. And then this was just a scrap I had left, like from a lot of them, so I just decided to add it on as a third pocket, and it is just shy of 2 inches. And so when I filled the goodie bag, I kind of put some things down here in this pocket, some things in this pocket, and then kind of layered some things in the front. And then I had found these coloring books on Amazon that were like the perfect size, and I put those on the back just so that there was like decoration on the front and the back. So then just for kicks, I'll show you what I included. I had some little rulers that came from Target, Halloween pencil, a little notepad, a little Halloween pen, some Halloween stickers, a little box of stickers, and then this is just like one of those little, there's like the little metal ball in there, and you have to get it through the maze. I just thought that was kind of fun. Halloween eraser, and then I did include some candies, little gummy bears, and sour vampire bats, and then some Smarties. I tried to avoid chocolate just because like I had other chocolate treats, and I just wanted there to be a non-chocolate option. So those were a lot of fun to make, and those used up, I think I ended up making those first. And so those used up like a really good chunk of paper. And so when it came down to the cards, like I didn't have a ton of paper left, so that made it nice and quick. So I will go ahead and insert my card share here and then can share with you what I had left afterwards. The things that I had thought I was going to use as embellishments, I realized probably weren't appropriate for a nursing home or like the elderly. There were, you know, like the skulls, and then I thought, oh, I can use like some of these labels down that were included in one of the, like a cut apart page, or like some of these up here that were meant to be like drink or beverage labels. Or here's like some straw flags, and I thought I could like maybe incorporate those, and then I realized, like, you know, it talks about poison and death and like skulls, and so decided I should probably stay away from that. So I tried to pull in like what I had left, and then along with some stamps of, you know, still use some of these, but maybe not the ones that are very dark or refer to death. So probably a poor choice of a pad on my part. But when I made my cards, I decided to keep it very simple and figure out cards that I could make very quickly, because I was in a hurry. It was, you know, down to the wire, and realizing that I needed some cards. So I had, at this point, I had about 5 full sheets of pattern paper left, plus a bunch of strips, and then like all of the cut aparts. So I went through, and one pile of the cut aparts I had were like these labels, and you know, they meant it to be for like food or drink labels or whatever, but I thought it'd be great to stamp a sentiment on. So I did utilize those in a bunch of the cards, and then I also tried to pull in some of the strips I had left. These little fishtails that are included would be parts of the little straw flags that were included, and in some cases I was able to use the wording. Otherwise I just cut the other half off and used it as an embellishment. So this is one of the card designs I used, and then when I went back through towards the end on some of the cards, I realized I needed something else. So on some of the scrap paper that I had that was like more of a solid, I stamped some smaller images. So you'll see a bunch of cards with this design, just with different paper combinations. I also pulled in 2 sticker sets that I had found last year from Hobby Lobby, and they went perfect with this paper, like the colors of the orange and just kind of the vintage look of it. And they were both from the Jeepers Creepers line from Paper Studio. So I had the cardstock sticker version, and then these were dimensional. And so I also tried to pull those in where I could. So this was one of the cardstock stickers with the owls, and then this was just a little scallop strip that I had left that I had fussy cut out of one of the other pages, and then just stamped my sentiment. So this one was a little bit different design. So here is another version where I was using some of the other cut aparts. This one just said lizard legs, so I figured that was fairly safe and innocuous. So I had done the same concept here, where I was just kind of layering the sentiment and then a strip behind it. So in this case, when I came back through at the end, I just added some cardstock punches. Here's the same layout with the sentiment, but I just pulled in a little spider stamp down here. So this curved strip was one of the cupcake wrappers that they had included. And so I didn't use them for cupcakes, obviously. Some of them I used in a different way, and I will share that in my wrap-up video here, but I decided to pull in these curved ones. I used them a couple different ways on the cards. Let me go ahead and... So I took one and put it across kind of just at a curve here, and then what was left of it went kind of on one of the bottom corners of another card. And then I just used one of my little sentiment labels and then pulled in this extra piece, this extra cut apart, just to give it a little bit of something extra. So here, this was one of the drink labels, and it just says Spine Tingling Tonic. I felt that was pretty safe, and so just put that as kind of like my main focal point for that card. Here I used that same label, but this time just used a strip behind it. So here again, we just got the cut apart and the strip. This one I ended up pulling a sticker in as well. This is another portion of a drink label. And then this is one of the cardstock stickers from the sticker sheets. And then I felt like it needed something else to balance it out up here and to pull in some green. So this was just a little scrap that I had that I threw on like at the end. It's another one of these. And then this one, I had this strip of green left at the end, and then a bunch of stickers that I wanted to try and use. So I just kind of created a little grouping here with the haunted house, and then a spooky tree stamp, and then the spooky chandelier. So I just kind of made a little grouping with that. Here I used one of the dimensional stickers from the Jeepers Creepers sheet, as well as one of the cardstock stickers, and then labeled up one of the little flag strips, or the straw flag strips here behind it, and then stamped directly onto the card.
What is it doing?
And then this one, I pulled in one of the dimensional stickers down here at the bottom and ended up using 2 smaller strips up here at the top. And then I do have a couple that are kind of like in this layout as well, where I took some strips down here and then a couple of stickers and then balanced it out with some little circle punches at the top. This one, I grouped together a couple of scraps that I had and then covered the seam with another little strip and had put this black sticker, it says Boo, and it's got like a little bit of silver foil, silver shine to it, and had the little green flag down here and put it aside because I knew it needed something else, but I wasn't sure what. So at the end, when I had punched a bunch of circles, I just decided to kind of go with the little curly Q flow of the sticker and add some little punches to it. Here's another portion of the cupcake wrapper, and then just brought in a couple of the dimensional stickers up there at the top. Here we did the sticker and the strips again, and this time I was able to stamp directly onto one of the strips. And then there was a sheet that had like a little bit of orange glitter swirl at the bottom, and so I just kind of tried to use that as kind of a design element at the bottom, and then just did my normal layering at the top and then didn't have to add much else to them. So again, I kept these all very simple. I didn't do any matting because I was trying to go through them pretty quickly. And so this one I was able to use like what the straw flag actually said, "Drink me if you dare." So I ended up getting about 30 cards. This was one of the cardstock stickers. I did mat that so it stood out on the background. And then this one, I actually took 2 of the drink labels and layered them up. So one of them had like death, said something about death. So I covered it up with one of the skeleton heads, like with the top hats, and then covered that one up with a circle punch that I had stamped a tree on. So I just kind of used the drink labels that I couldn't use otherwise as some layer pieces, some matte pieces. So here I had this little owl sticker. This is the dimensional version of the owl sticker, and a bunch of scraps that I just kind of put together on that one. This one I just grouped 2 of the cardstock stickers together, and I did mat them on a scrap of kind of like this creamy color or craft color, and then black, and then just pulled in some scraps behind it, stamped directly onto my card. And then there were some rectangular scraps that I had left from cutting down strips for another project. And so I thought they would be perfect to make kind of like one of the grid cards. And so I grouped them together and then pulled in some stickers or some of the labels that I couldn't use on the nursing home card. So these are not going to the nursing home. These will just be extras. And I did use some pre-made black card bases that I had picked up at Michael's on clearance a while back. And they are like 4.5 by 6 inches, or 5 by 6.5 inches maybe. And then I added some like a light tan cardstock on the inside to write, and then used some of the straw flags on the inside. So here's that little skeleton with the top hat, which I think he's cute, but I didn't feel it appropriate for the nursing home. So this one, I just used All Hallows Eve on that one. And here's the Black Locust Poison. Warning for professional witch and wizard use only. Caution, highly poisonous, will cause death instantly, is what it says. And then here, I was just using a bunch of scraps. This was a cupcake wrapper that I had pieced together for something else and had a little bit left. This was another cut apart behind it that had a skull in the middle. And then I think this orange one was also one of the skulls with the top hat, and I just covered it with All Hallows Eve. There's a skull and crossbones, and then a drink label where I covered up the word on it. And again, just have those on the inside of all of them. So actually, I think I got like 35 cards if you include these, but I did get 30 cards for the nursing home, which was perfect. So I just wanted to quickly share these cards, and I literally worked through these in a couple hours, just because I kept them really simple and basic, and that's exactly what I needed. Okay, so after the cards were done, I did still have some pieces left. I had a lot of this type of scrap. And so some of them I had used on my cards to like stamp images on and use them as embellishments on the cards. And then the rest of these I'm just going to keep in my, I have a little basket of strips that are left, and then it's mainly like white craft and cream colored cardstock that I can just stamp on, for sentiments without having to cut into another paper or go digging for scraps. So I may either stick these in there or in with my junk journal supplies, just for, it's already got that aged vintage look to it, so I could stamp on there for like some journal sentiments as well. And then I did have a couple of the straw flags left that say "Drink me if you dare." And then there were so many of these labels. And I mentioned when I shared my cards that I didn't want to use them, a lot of them, on the nursing home cards. Didn't think they would be quite appropriate. And so I just got a bunch of those left that I figure I can use on a future Halloween project. There's crossbones, and then here's some other little labels. And then these little guys. So I figure I can keep these, and I'm just going to throw these in my stash. They'd be good for making some kind of decor piece or something in the future. But I did use up all the pattern paper. All I had left were mainly the cut aparts, so feel pretty good. So the 12 goodie bags, 2 12x12 scrapbook pages, 2 witches hats, which I have all the pieces cut, they're just stored away for next year, 4 rosettes, 35 cards, and then I did count the 8, or the dinner invitations that Ellie handed out, because she ended up making some for her and Avery as well, so she used up most of those, I think all but one of those. So pretty good. Glad I decided to go ahead and use this up. This has been in my stash for a really long time. I could not find a year on it anywhere, but I know it's been in my stash for a really long time. So glad to finally have it used up. But that should be it for my Halloween shares, and now the rest should be either Christmas or just everyday type projects. But anyway, thanks so much for your time again today, guys, and as usual, I hope you all have a crafty day.